Hi, Steve McLean here, and I have this YouTube channel with the idea of talking about and experiencing shifts in consciousness and process of healing. So my interest over the last 50 years has been, what causes healing and how do I support myself and other people experiencing healing. And so I I'm going to be just musing. I'm thinking like maybe I'll try to do about a 10-minute muse today. 10 minutes of thoughts about the healing process. And one of the things that I like to use examples um, of my own experience in terms of healing and things changing. So um, one of the things that hopefully you have some understanding of is something called triggering. And triggering is feeling a lot of emotions surface when somebody, says something or does something or reminds you of something, and all of a sudden, it could be anything. All of a sudden, you have all these strong feelings. And then you attempt to explain why you're having all these strong feelings by explaining why the other person was wrong in doing whatever it was that they did. And when we're in these states, they're frequently states of panic, fight or flight. We don't know what to do with the emotions that we're feeling. And so we just start making up stories to explain what we're feeling. Now, no matter what, those stories are just stories. What we're feeling has to do with old emotions from old events that haven't been resolved and integrated, haven't been released and integrated, so that we could just have the experience that we had at that time. And so, there's a variety of ways to do this, and I might talk about a few of them today, but I'm just going to give an example. So, um, um, 2 nights ago, something was said to me, and I felt this immediate emotional response to it. And so I, said goodbye to the people I was interacting with, and I went and just paid attention to what I was feeling so that I didn't get into a place of trying to explain the others why they were wrong about whatever it was that they were doing. Because we are looking for a reason, and so when we're triggered, we go, oh, well, this person said this to me, and that made me feel bad. Where the reality is probably that we felt bad, and this person said something, and those bad feelings came up, and we blamed that person for the bad feelings. But oftentimes those bad feelings just came from childhood, teenage years, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, however long you've been around, they could have been happening. And they continue to happen from my experience. No matter how good I get at what I do still have these responses. So it's not for me to stop these responses from happening, but every time they happen, to do something to resolve the experience that caused the response. So I did a video recently on how to separate the story from the emotions, and that's one way we can do it, where we have an experience or we have certain thoughts that lead to these feelings, and then we go into the feelings. Well, if we keep following that, if we learn to just be, okay, I'm having this feeling, and what are the thoughts that come up around that feeling, or I'm having this thought, and what are the feelings that come up around that, and then how do I separate my feelings, emotions from the thoughts or stories? And so I talked the other day about how you can separate it and put the story in one hand the emotions in the other. This takes a bit of practice of separating the emotion from the story, because the emotions are somewhat a part of the story, but we can separate them. Kind of like chopping vegetables and separating the part of the vegetable you don't want to eat from the part of the vegetable you do want to eat, or taking the avocado pit out of the avocado. Sometimes it's difficult because they feel like they're one thing. And at one point they were one thing. But once we remove the avocado pit from the avocado, and we're interested in eating the avocado, whatever you would call that, part that you eat in terms of the avocado, then you separate that part that you eat from the shell of the avocado, which also is a part you don't eat. So that's pretty much a little bit of an idea. It takes a little consciousness. You have to see, feel, kind of understand that your emotions are not the story. The story is just what you've made up as a result of not finishing an earlier experience. So all of it has to do with completing the earlier experience, which means just experiencing the feelings. And one can just experience the feelings and let them go, let them go, let them go, let them go by grounding them out your feet. You can ground out your hands. You can ground, out your pelvis. Grounding from the feet is the most logical and easiest to do. And so, you put your attention on your feet, you feel the energy open up at your feet. The grounding chakras are in the arch of your feet, in both feet. The one on the right side typically is the one where energy moves out. The one on the left side is typically the one where energy moves in. So our batteries, our body batteries, get charged by the energies moving in. Our energies get integrated by releasing them out the right foot. So we're meant to be a battery. We're meant to be, the switch is flipped and the light turns on. So when we find ourselves being really kind of in a dark place, it's typically because the flip has been switched and we no longer have the ability to release energy out the foot and take energy in from the foot. So that is our polarity. That is the movement of energy. When that light switch is on, energy is moving, the body's functioning, we can see where we're going. When the light switch is off, energy stops moving, and we feel like we can't do anything, we don't have the energy, we feel tired. Those things can happen from a variety of things. So in this particular, what I would give, I'm thinking, what would I give you as a very simple thing, which probably could have been, just what the whole thing was about, just a very simple thing you could do. And I'll work on doing very simple things, somewhat being, doing complicated things to get to the simple things. So we have feelings, we have emotions. They can be triggered. They're connected to old events that weren't resolved. So we're going to resolve those events. So let's just take one event. So the other night, I was triggered, and then I was able to observe the story that appeared in my mind. And the story we make up is that this person will never understand me. They've had plenty of time to get me, and they don't get me, and they're mean. And so I don't know if I can take it anymore, this meanness, and I may just have to end the relationship because I just can't take the trauma of this relationship. And one forgets that maybe that relationship was great for, however much period of time it seemed great most of the time. And now it's over, because our many of our goals in life are to feel safe. And so when a person that we felt safe with now feels like a person that doesn't feel safe, then we have to figure out what to do, because if they no longer feel safe, then we can't feel safe when we're around them. So, we can either go to the depth of the trauma, find it, release it, and not to really judge ourselves while we're doing it. And that's, comes down to the four agreements: being impeccable with your truth, with your words, impeccable with your words, speaking your truth, um, just doing your best, just the best you can do in that moment, not taking things personally, and that's what triggering is. Like, oh, they said this mean thing to me, I'm having all these really bad feelings, this person must be a horrible person. And we're basing our reality on how we feel, which is oftentimes what we do. And then not to assume that we really know what's going on in the consciousness of another person. We realize, just like ourselves, we're making these things up. So with those four agreements, and the hardest one for me in the past has been to not take it personally, and I would say, well, it's still the hardest one, even though I've been working on it. So hopefully you don't feel disappointment that this person who puts himself out as a healer and does thousands of healing sessions and does all sorts of interesting things that help people to change, that person's still having difficulties with a variety of things as they move along. More so in the last 3.5 years than prior to that, according to my memory. And who knows what that was all about. We can make up stories, but we don't really know what that was all about. But anything that happens can be an opportunity to heal. So, if we each just have some skills, like in driving skills, where it's just like, I'm just going to put on the brake and come to a stop, or I'm going to slow down and pull over the side of the road and stop, put the car in park, and really think about things. So just bringing things to a standstill, or slowing things down so that one can be present and really look at something and trust that whatever it is we're going to look at isn't going to kill us, because if it could have killed us, it would have killed us at the time it happened. But it didn't, because we're still here, or at least we think we are, which I think I am. You probably think you're still here as you're watching this, and we may be, and that's our thought, maybe just our thought, but we don't know. And confusion is how we learn. So if you feel confused, then you could know you're learning. So we just slow it down, and let's just do one thing. So if you slow it down and notice in your body where your attention goes, and if it goes somewhere else than where I'm talking, then notice that. But where I'm noticing it currently is right in the center of the chest. So if you notice, and you could call it whatever you want. I would call it a tightness. I would call it a discomfort. I would call it a little bit of a burning in my experience. We can name it, we can define it, and then we can just accept it. Like, okay, I have this feeling, I accept this feeling. There it is, I accept it. And then I'm going to go into my deep self. And you can feel yourself going into your deep self. Your deep self is kind of within your spine, or your pranic tube. So when you say, I'm going to go into my deep self, and then you just watch where you go, that is where you'll go. Is you'll go inside your spine, inside your pranic tube, which runs in the same location as the spine. They're kind of similar and they're connected. So we go into our deep self, and then we notice that feeling in our chest, this starts to ease up. And maybe I'll just do an exercise, which is just taking people to notice tension patterns in their body, helping them go into their deep self and notice the tension pattern in the body release. So you might be feeling like a tingling in your chest. You might be feeling a lightening in your chest, like there's before it was a feeling of compression or heaviness, and now it feels like a feeling of decompression, and it's getting lighter. And then as we keep our attention on that deep self and kind of the peacefulness and calm of that deep self, we just feel that weight come off our chest. Yeah, this is working well, and so I think you'll like this one if you do it and kind of stay with it. And I may make it shorter so you don't have to go through all the verbiage it took to get to this place. Okay, so there's one thing that has released. What was it? I don't know. Do I want to know? Not really. I don't think knowing what it was is important. If you do know what it was, what released, you have some memory flashback, that's fine. But you don't need to know what it was. Energy wants to move. And if energy is being held still, it's uncomfortable. And so we take our attention away from discomfort. When we put our attention back on discomfort, it's energy attempting to move. When we go to our deep self, which is where our flow is, which is where the stream of life is, which is where the energy that moves through the universe moves and is connected to that energy of the universe. In that deep, calm, peaceful place, any energy that we have our attention on that feels stuck is going to become unstuck. So that's enough for today, and I think that's a really, could be a very useful exercise if you choose to do it. And so now let's go. So let's just see, come up here and we hit this button and then we're done. All right, have a good day.